Hello everyone and welcome to the latest episode on the Four Lads Network of This Week in History. When this week we're going to complete the month of August by doing August the 25th to the 31st. And with me again, my partner in crime, Stephen Miller. How are you, mate?
Oh, fine, David. Good to see you again.
Yes, here we go again. Another week. So I'm quite sure most people know what the format is, but I'll just very quickly say that over the next 7 days, we take each date and we look back in Rangers history of an event from that particular day. And Stephen there, from his Rangers Archives website, often contributes a little video or a little bit of memorabilia for us to have a look at to associate with that particular day. So let's start with August the 25th. And I did say when I started this show that we won't just do the good times, we will also do the not so good times, because that's what history is all about. So August the 25th, 2015, despite being voted Club Player of the Year the previous season, defender Darren McGregor is given a free transfer and is immediately signed by Hibs. So Darren McGregor, only one season at Rangers, season 2014-15, which I think must rank as one of the worst seasons in club history.
Yeah. I was, when we were discussing what we were going to talk about, I was trying to remember games from the 2014-15 season, and it was just horrendous, absolutely horrendous. So
yeah, well, I think he won Player of the Year almost by default, in that he just wasn't. He wasn't everybody else.
The least bad Player of the Year, yeah. I think it was the award. But no offence to him, he would say
no.
He is what it is, you know. But just that season was just started off bad and got worse.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it is the worst. It may or may not, because you could argue the third division one's obviously the worst. But finishing third in the second tier, the club in the hands of absolute charlatans for most of the season.
Yeah.
Remember the AGM in a little tent in the pitch, Mike Ashley getting us to sell players so that he could get loans repaid and all that kind of stuff. And then we had that absolutely, it defies words, Kenny McDowell briefly in charge when he obviously didn't want to do the job in the first place.
Just at Christmas time, wasn't it? Just before Christmas, and getting beat 4-0 by Hibs just after Boxing Day, I think it was.
Yeah, what a season it was. So Darren McGregor was voted our best player that season. I'm not quite sure how big a compliment it was, because we ended up finishing 24 points behind Hearts.
Yeah.
We only actually won 19 games out of 36 in the second tier of Scottish football. Is that not?
And I know, and this was the season we got to the playoffs, was it?
Yes.
Right, and Motherwell horsed us in both games, and it was no surprise. To be honest, that was a sad thing, you know. It was just one of the awful times.
Yeah. No, actually, that was McGregor's last goal for Rangers. He scored in the home game against everybody. Nobody really wants to remember these games. But
when it was 3-0, we were 3-0 down, wasn't it? In Ibrox,
yeah, maybe.
I know it was 3-0 just after half time, and he scored late on.
Anyway, so his stats were 53 games. I didn't realise we played as many games as that in that one season.
Yeah,
53 games. I suppose right enough you had the
Challenge Cup
stuff. Yeah. 5 goals. He scored in his last league game, which was against Hearts at Tynecastle. We were 2-0 up and ended up drawing 2 each. And he scored in that Motherwell first leg playoff. And he won Player of the Year. So good on him. And then Matt Warburton came in after Stuart McCall's little brief period in charge. And Warburton had a completely different way of playing football from the back. He wasn't really into big no nonsense defenders, was he?
No, no. He wanted likes of Rob Kiernan.
So, exactly.
So yeah, it was obvious that I think that some of the players that we'd had the previous season weren't going to cut the mustard, and Dan McGregor was one of the ones that fell out with that. But obviously he was a Hibs supporter, I believe. So he got a move that probably suited him and certainly suited us.
Yeah, but I must admit, I was quite surprised with Freedom though. And
he
was under contract. I don't know why we didn't try and at least get some money off Hibs for him, because I'm sure they probably would have paid it.
Yeah, again, I have no idea why that would have happened, but just
so at the age of 30, he went to Hibs, and just to rub salt in it, he then played in the cup final at the end of the Warburton's first season for Hibs when they beat us.
Got a winner's medal, didn't
he?
Yeah, I'm sure I remember him scoring for St Mirren against us at Ibrox as well.
Oh,
before that, yeah, and he scored against us as well when Morelos scored for Rangers. He scored for Hibs, a late equaliser at Ibrox in the game.
Yeah, he actually played for quite. I'm quite surprised because he was 30 when he went to Hibs, but he played till 2022, so that was another 6 years.
6 years, yeah.
7 years. Sorry, 7 years. The best part of 200 games for them. So he obviously done a good job for them. And I suppose the question, looking back, seeing it's a history thing, was he any worse than Kiernan or Senderos or Clint Hill or Russell Martin or all these guys that we brought in over the next 2 or 3 years?
Yeah, probably not. But obviously we were looking to get better players. So you can argue. Yeah, I mean, remember who was his central defender partnership? Mosney. Was that his partner in defence?
Either Mosney or Lee McCulloch.
And Zaliukas played that season, didn't
he? That's right, so he did. Yeah.
So we weren't exactly blessed with talent in the back. I think we're bad now.
So August the 25th, 2015. I'm not going to dwell too much on it because it's pretty dark times. I just wanted to prove that we're not just going to talk about cup finals and stuff all the time.
No videos or pictures for this one then.
Oh, sorry. Well, I'm trying to brush over it completely. So this was him the day he signed. And even the scarf makes me cringe a little bit.
No, it does, doesn't it? Great nice training talk, right enough.
Yeah. I suppose Mike Ashley get his cut out of that as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So Darren McGregor left Rangers after one season on August the 25th, 2015, and it's a time that I don't think we'll talk about too often.
No.
In this podcast.
Hopefully not.
So August the 26th, the next date. We always do this old one. We always do something from way back. So we're going to go back to August the 26th, 1918. Obviously, this is during the Great War.
Yep.
So the War Office confirmed that former Rangers player Finlay Speedy has been awarded the Military Medal for Bravery. Bit of a different one, this one. It's not a football,
yeah.
Football thing.
Not a football thing,
But we briefly mentioned Finlay Speedy on a previous history show. It was his testimonial.
Yeah.
But we used his testimonial to talk about Tom Sinclair, the goalkeeper. So I thought it was only fair that we actually went back and talked about him because we kind of glossed over him a little bit, and he had a terrific Rangers career. Signed in 1900 at the age of 20. 167 games, 65 goals, 2 league titles, 1 Scottish Cup, a Glasgow Cup, and a Charity Cup. What do you know of or read about Finlay Speedy as a footballer?
It was I think inside left was his inside forward, but inside left was his position. Again, good goal scorer. I've just been working on my spreadsheet that documents every Rangers game, and he comes up a lot because for goal scoring. But the thing that maybe stuck out for me was he left Rangers was a 1906-07 season, and so he'd only played with us for 6 seasons. He only played 160 games, and yet he was given a benefit match right before he signed for Newcastle.
Yeah, that's right.
So why, like 6 years, why would he get a benefit match? He was only 26 years old. It wasn't as if he had an injury and he was retiring, or he'd given his tremendous long service. So I just wondered why would he? I know that there used to be a series in the Rangers Matchday programme of people who had been given testimonials.
Yes.
I'll need to look that out just to find out maybe why he'd been given a testimonial after such a short period at the club.
It's a good question, actually. I don't know whether it was part of contractual thing about if you stay a bit longer, we'll give you a benefit match.
Well, the thing is, that might have been because obviously that was his last game. His benefit match was his last game. He signed for Newcastle right after it, and he won a championship medal with them, didn't he?
He did. It could be something like a payoff rather than Rangers pay it than the supporters pay it. But in these 167 games, 65 goals, he had a nice little habit of scoring against Celtic. So he scored against them the first time he played against them in a New Year game. He scored in a Glasgow Cup final against them. He scored in a Charity Cup final against them. And he scored 2 in the 1905 Scottish Cup final against them. And unfortunately, after him putting us 2-0 up, we beat 3-2.
Yeah, Jimmy Quinn scored a hat-trick. He was one of the few to score a hat-trick in the finals. That was a sad day.
It was.
I remember it well.
Gordon Jury's hat-trick for that one. Yeah. But I suppose the biggest triumph, if you like, in Speedy's time at Rangers was the 1903 Scottish Cup final, because that was the season after the first disaster. Rangers had to sell a lot of players. They did a lot of fundraising. They're out the league for the start of the season, but they were determined to sort of win the Scottish Cup as a sort of memorial to the people that died in the first disaster. And they got to the final where they played Hearts, and they drew twice. They drew 1 each, drew nothing each. Third game, Rangers went 1-0 up, and then the left back, Jock Drummond, just a long-serving veteran left back, got injured and had to get carried off. So Speedy went back to left back, and Rangers had to play with 10 men for an hour. And apparently he was absolutely outstanding in this temporary position. And the great R.C. Hamilton scored near the end. We won 2-0. And a lot of the reports at the time talked about Speedy as being kind of the hero of the day because he stepped into the breach.
Kind of like Davy Wilson at Wembley in '63.
Actually, it is.
Isn't it? So, and I don't know if people have been to the Scottish Football Museum at Hampden. I'm sure they've still got the match ball from that game, the Hearts Cup final in 1903.
It's in the Rangers Museum now.
In the Rangers Museum now, right?
It's one of the first exhibits in the Rangers Museum now.
I started. Well, I've probably seen it, but I knew I'd seen it in a museum, but I thought it was the Scottish one. But
maybe that's where they got it from.
Yeah, possibly.
So, as I say, he won a few trophies. Hero in a cup final, scored a lot of goals against Celtic, and then, as you say, after his benefit match, strangely, we then decided to sell him. And he went to Newcastle, where in his first season he won the English First Division, the English Championship, the English title. I know young folk think of Premier League as the First Division is the name of the top league at the time, and he also won the Charity Shield
with him. Yeah, the start of the following season. Yeah,
start of the following season. And he also played in a FA Cup final, but they lost.
He lost. Yeah,
so he was obviously a pretty top class player.
Good career. And then he came back to the bar, didn't he?
He did, but the last time I was going to say he only won 3 caps for Scotland, and it was that year that he played in the cup final in 1903. And he scored against Wales and he scored against England. And he never played for them again. It seems.
So it's weird, isn't it? How I don't know. What I always thought was that the Anglos didn't really get picked a lot in the early end. So the home-based Scots, but he played with Rangers for another 3 years after that and never got a cap. So. And he continued to play well for Rangers. I don't think he wasn't a player who missed a lot of games with injury or anything like that. So
no. So as you say, he came back up north, played for Dumbarton, which was his hometown team. He actually won the second division with them.
Yeah,
so
he did.
He's got
a fair selection.
Back of the medal we're actually talking about. He's got a few football medals as well. But I suppose I'll just put his picture up for folk that once I find it, that it's there. There we go. So the first picture's that team picture we showed for his testimonial.
Yeah.
1905-06. That's him in the middle in his blue shirt. And then the last bit there's the newspaper article from 1918 confirming that he's about his military medal. And he joined the Argyll and Sutherland Highlanders as a private, and he actually served in the First World War for 3 years. So I'm not quite sure how much action he saw, but he certainly saw. He was in France in 1916. He came home in 1917, and when he was in leave, he played a couple of games for Dumbarton. One of them was against Rangers. Then he went back to the front again.
Yeah.
And in May 1918, he get injured in action. He gets shot in the leg, and he get transferred back home to Bangor Military Hospital. And he was in hospital when that announcement was made about him getting the military medal.
Yeah, another one of our war heroes.
Absolutely. And after the war was finished and after he recovered from his injury, by that time he was nearly 40 years old. So
I was going to say, he was in the army when he was in mid-30s.
Yeah, I actually don't think at that age that he had to join the army. I think that would have been...
Yeah, he would have been at the older scale, I think, wouldn't he?
I would have thought he could have went into one of the home professions, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Rather than actually join, but he must have decided to do that. And the last thing I know about him was that in the 1930s he briefly came back into the game to be a coach at Dumbarton again, but then he didn't last very long. But so Finlay Speedy, again, he's not somebody that's going to be in the Hall of Fame or somebody that's particularly gets lots of stuff written about them. He's a good Rangers career, but not a great one. Is maybe
a good servant to the club. That's, William Wilton had just taken over as manager when he signed, and so obviously he liked him as a player. And I'll need to go try and dig a wee bit further and find out about that testimonial. That's annoying me now. And he had a couple of descendants who made it in football. It was Bob Ferrier, Motherwell, who was a top player, and he was descended from Finlay Speedy. Yeah,
I didn't know that. Yeah, he's a well-known name. So Rangers Cup final hero, war hero. So we'll remember Finlay Speedy on the August the 26th, and that was back in 1918 that he got his military medal. Let's get a bit more. Well, I call this up to date, but when I think about it now, it's getting towards 40 years ago, so it's not as up to date as I thought it was. August the 27th, 1988. Rangers give their fans a day to remember by hammering Celtic 5-1 in the first Old Firm game of the new season. 27th of August 1988, Stephen, that must be one of your favourite days. It's one of my favourite days.
Oh yeah, it was, but maybe not for the reason that you're thinking about for the game. Because I was actually working that day. That's what I worked in the bookies. I was working in Cumbernauld that day, but I was married on the 2nd of September 1988, and which was the following Friday, and the Saturday night was my stag night. So so the Rangers beating Celtic 5-1 was my stag night, and it was in the Nile in Glasgow. Good Rangers pub. It was run by a guy called Billy Peterkin, who's quite well known amongst Rangers supporters. He was my brother-in-law was his best man at his wedding, and he arranged for us to get the downstairs bit for the night, and so it was obviously a good night. There's a lot of people from Hills there, and some of them weren't of our persuasion, shall we say. So, and I remember one of them come running back in. He goes, "You're not going to believe this. I was in the toilet there, and Ali McCoy and Durant just walked in." so they were in the Nile the same night, my stag do. So that's what I remember about the 27th of August 1988. If you've seen my stag night was in the night we beat Celtic 5-1, doesn't get much better than that.
Does it? So a wee bit of context about the game. Celtic had just won the double. Rangers had finished third the previous season. We hadn't beaten them the previous season. They'd won 3 and drew the other one. But I think this was the day 9 in a row get born. Because for me, we went into that game thinking Celtic were probably a little bit better than we were. And we came into that game realising that, you know what, we are absolutely a mile beyond. We were way beyond them.
We just wiped the floor on them that day.
So the team was Woods, Stevens, Brown, Gough, Wilkins, Butcher, Drinkle, Ferguson, McCoist, Durant, and Walters. That's a team.
That's a team, isn't it? Fantastic. Strength, flair, speed, skill. What more do you want?
So I actually was at the game. So my first memory of it was it started pouring with Rangers before it, and it was raining at kickoff. And Frank McAvenny scored. Oh, jeez, it must have been 3-4 minutes into the game. It wasn't very long into the game. and the rain started to go off. And McCoy equalised. John Brown tapped the ball back to him and he hit it into the edge of the box, low into the corner, made it 1 each. And then came probably the goal the game's best remembered for. Although I think there's 2 or 3 goals you could probably say. But I think there was
made in England.
Yeah, exactly. The goal made in England. So the goal that made it 2-1 in the 10 minutes for half time, I think it was undoubtedly the most famous goal Ray Wilkins ever scored for Rangers. And this is it.
Goff and Butcher have gone up. It's launched in field by Stevens. There's Butcher. Back with Wilkins. Absolutely magnificent from Ray Wilkins. 10 minutes to half time. And a goal which Ray Wilkins will never have bettered in an illustrious career. Ian Andrews had not a hope.
Ian Andrews had not a hope.
Five past Andrews.
Yeah, and in fact, he's only ever remembered in football for that game, that goalkeeper, isn't he? I couldn't tell you any other game he ever played in his life.
No.
So 2-1 at half time, and we absolutely wiped the floor in the second half. We just completely demolished them. The goal, they scored straight after half time. McCoy sloped his header, and Andrews made a mess of it under the crossbar, and it went in. And then one of my favourite ever headed goals was Kevin Brook's fourth goal. What a great Walter's cross. And then Walters himself made it 5. There's a bit of a myth, I don't know if it's a myth, a legend has come up over the years that Rangers then eased off. Rangers then, soon as brought himself on, he brought David Cooper on, and we just didn't try that hard in the last 20 minutes. It's the kind of legend that's, I don't know, you weren't at the game then, but I think you have seen the whole game in a...
I've got the whole game.
You've got the whole game.
I've got the full match. Yeah, and
I think it's fair that
doesn't quite work out that way. I think maybe we didn't have as many opportunities to score after it, but like obviously Celtic were like trying to shut up, so they weren't going to get annihilated. You know, like Tommy Burns famously said the following day he was petrified that it was going to be 7-1.
So. I remember that.
And Billy McNeil said after the game that his team were a bit unlucky. So that was, but I've watched it a couple of times, and there's no slacking off. We just maybe just didn't create as much as we had previously. So I think it's a bit of a myth rather than a legend.
Yeah, but what a day! It's actually quite scary for me how long ago it now is, because I can still remember it so vividly that day. And also the Scott Sport highlights, I watched it so often I could almost tell you the commentary.
Yeah, still got it all. And like from the interviews they had great interviews with the players afterwards and all this kind of thing. Like Wilkins got interviewed, Walters, Drinkle, and Souness himself. And they were great interviews after it. Just how happy they were and how despondent Celtic were. It was, and as I say, you're saying it's 40 years since the game. I'm going, God, if I've nearly been married 40 years. so
that's 38 years ago, isn't it? It's scary, but I think we talked in a previous episode when we played Tottenham a couple of years after this. Was that Graham Souness team as good as the peak Walter Smith teams? And if you like, from me, probably that 11 from that game, was probably the peak of the Souness years.
Yeah, I mean, phenomenal, and as you mentioned earlier, the 2 subs, Souness and Cooper. Wow, they did everything, that team, for the 2 or 3 years. And as you said, at the start of the season, we were a bit, like we hadn't played well. And there's quite a few defeats towards the end of the season before. Remember, we lost to Hearts at home and things like that. But the start of that season, we were just running over the top of teams, and we beat Clydebank 6-0 and Dundee 4-1 in the cup. In games that could have been tricky, we were winning with ease all the way through. So I think we knew fairly early on that it was going to be. Walters had settled in after his first few months at the club, and he was just fantastic. He was the kind of outlet, the goal scorer, trickery. You could give them a ball and nobody else could get it.
Yeah,
fantastic.
When I think about it, quite a number of the players had arrived in the sort of 9 months before that game. Now, they weren't there at the beginning of the previous season. So Stevens had just arrived. Brown had come in regular that year. Gough was the previous season. Wilkins the previous season. Drinkle that summer. Ian Ferguson the previous season. Walters the previous season. So even though that the season before it was unsuccessful, Souness didn't have to lay the foundations during it.
Yeah, that's it. I just think if we'd got Haitley at that time instead of, because we tried to get Haitley, both in 86 and 87. If we'd had Haitley, and no offence to Kevin Drinkle, who did a terrific season for us, but I think just that one extra top class centre forward, would have been invincible.
Yeah. So anyway, August the 27th, 1988. As soon as August the 27th came up, I didn't even look at anything else, if I'm honest with you. It was always going to be
always
for that day.
Next year we'll talk about my wedding. Right.
Which takes us to maybe another really historic and well-known event, but not one in a good way this time. August the 28th, 1954. So we're arguing back. Rangers defeat Stirling Albion 2-0 at Ibrox in a League Cup match. But the game is best remembered for the sending off of defender Willie Woodburn for retaliation. The dismissal would end Woodburn's football career, as he was subsequently given a lifetime Sindai suspension by the SFA. Obviously, there's a book that just came out about Willie Woodburn. Our good friend Jeff Holmes has written it, and I've got a copy. I've started reading it, and I'm sure the details of that game, the details of his career, will all be in there far more than we can do justice in 10 minutes. But Willie Woodburn, we'll talk about the actual game itself in a minute. But Willie Woodburn, as a Rangers player, as a Rangers defender, where does he sit in the historian side of you?
Again, everyone kind of remembers like George Young, great centre half for Rangers. Now, Willie Woodburn was the centre half for Rangers. George Young played right back because Woodburn was so good. And that was the day before. These were the days before you didn't have two defenders in the centre of defence. It was like the centre half, and your wing backs would come back and help. But he just commanded absolutely everything. From everything I've read about him, he was just obviously maybe a wee bit of a short fuse, but people would be stunned if you told them that he'd only ever been sent off 4 times in 16 years. That's right. So in twice against Stirling Albion, it's not as if he was a thug or anything like that. But he obviously had a bit of a short fuse. But he must, if the greatest ever Rangers team had been voted for just after his era, then I've no doubts he would be the centre half for most of the support. I think he's a player that we would all have loved to have seen playing for Rangers.
Yes. Well, my old dad, who obviously is the one I used to listen to as a wee boy, he was absolutely convinced till his dying day that Willie Woodburn was the best centre half he had ever seen in British football. Not just play for Scotland, not just play for Rangers. I mean, he was convinced he was the best he had seen playing in British football. He was a footballer as well as a centre half, because back in the day, centre halves, because as you said, they were there to clear their lines and just mark this middle bit of the park. They tended to just hoof it and clear it and just tackle it and just get rid of it. But apparently he was a footballer.
Yep, I think that's what I've read as well. He just commanded the whole area, and like he just said, if it's outside the 6, I used to say to Bobby Brown, if it's in the 6-yard box, it's yours. If it's outside that, I'll sweep it up. Don't you bother. You know, and he was a as you say, a good football player. You don't play for 16 years without being a good player, and a good person as well for all accounts. You know, so I know that Jeff's dug into a lot of his home life and bargaining, and just everyone spoke about how Gentle Ben, I think it was called. So it was a terrific, just a nice human being as well.
I always do the stats. Now, I had so many different choices to do the stats because he played all through the war.
Yeah.
And if I ignore the war, then his numbers don't really look as if it's a 16-year career. So I'm going to include them just for the purposes to show how long he played for Rangers. As you say, 16 years, 504 competitive games, which was 317 league games, 51 Scottish Cup, 70 League Cup, 66 others. Only scored 2 goals. So there's absolutely no doubt what he was in the team to do. If I just talk about official titles, because there's so many wartime competitions, I'm not talking about wartime competitions, but 4 league titles, 4 Scottish Cups, 2 League Cups, and almost ever present in the first treble season, 24 caps for Scotland, which was a lot.
It's a lot. It's a large amount when they only played 3 internationals a season sometimes.
And that's official caps, because wartime internationals don't get counted on it.
Yep.
And also inducted into the Club Hall of Fame. So you're talking about a club giant here. You're never played for anyone else. Oh yes, okay. I suppose we better talk before I go into anything else. We better talk about the game that was this date, the sending off. So I had the pleasure of being at an event that Jeff talked about this.
Maybe you were against each other, the jury.
We were doing a sort of defence and prosecution of Willie Woodburn, and but afterwards, Jeff actually explained what was going through Willie Woodburn's head or career at the time. He was well into his 30s. Rangers had stopped doing testimonials for long-serving players because they had so many of them at the time that they decided that they couldn't afford to.
What a week.
So he wasn't going to get a testimonial game. He was starting to carry injuries. Footballers didn't get paid much more than anyone else did back then. He didn't have another trade to fall back on. He wanted to keep playing for as long as he could. And when he went into this Stirling Albion game, he was just coming back from a knee injury and his knee was all bandaged up. And what was he called? Alec Patterson, I think the Stirling Albion player was called.
Patterson, centre forward for Stirling.
Yeah. They went in a bit of a tussle, and I think Patterson tried to land himself on Woodburn's knee, and Woodburn took great exception to this, trying to injure him, and he headbutted him.
Yeah, I mean, in the 90th minute when we were 2-0 up, I think we played in the game at Stirling just a couple of weeks before. I think Patterson had been needling him then as well, and I think obviously Willie just thought he's trying to injure me here, and gave him a Glasgow kiss.
So as you say, it was only his 4th sending off, although I think probably to be completely fair about it, 3 of them had come in the previous. That was the third one in 18 months or something, I think.
Yeah, it was. But even and then you had to be really bad to get sent off nowadays. It's not like you have here. You know, there's no way. You know, like deliberate fouls and somebody going through and all that kind of thing. So they're. And he had been given quite a hefty ban for the previous one, you know, and had been warned about his future conduct. So, but even so, it was still a huge shock when it was given as Sindai.
Yeah, and I know that there's some people think that it wouldn't have happened if Bill Struth had still been the manager because Scott Simon had just taken over.
Yeah.
There's some people think that it was a payback for Rangers not providing any players for Scotland in the
World Cup.
Yeah. And it was a wee bit of payback by the SFA for it. But regardless, a Sindai suspension just seemed, looking back,
draconian, even in the days.
And I'm quite sure he got some legal advice actually that said that it was, if he challenged it in court, he would win. You couldn't just take somebody's livelihood off them indefinitely.
For what I've mentioned to Jeff and that about the Rangers didn't support him
No.
after it by, we'll appeal this and all this kind of thing. Back in the days, it was like, yes sir, thank you for looking after us in a way, So I was sad to,
I think it's pretty tragic for me that probably the greatest centre half in Rangers history isn't really remembered for being the greatest centre half in Rangers history. he's remembered for this, for how his career ended instead of what the 16 years before it.
I don't know of any other players that were sin-dyed. Was he the only one?
Jeff told me there was somebody played for one of the smaller Scottish teams got sin-dyed in the 1940s.
Right.
Apparently it was the second one.
Right.
But
as if they're making an example.
There was none after it. And I think actually because of all the headlines about whether it was legal or not, and there was even lawyers coming out and basically saying that they would defend. Willie Woodburn would let him, he would take him to court.
And for it was lifted. It did get lifted, didn't it? 3 years later when he was no chance of playing anymore.
He was 37 by that time.
Yeah.
And he became a journalist, didn't he?
Yep.
I'll finish with a couple of quotes. So, Willie Waddle, who also played alongside Woodburn for just his whole Rangers career, said, Willie Woodburn impressed me more as a player and as a man than anyone else I ever met in football. This is what you talking about, his personality off the pitch. Apparently, he was the nicest man you could ever meet. Tom Finney, George Best said was the greatest they ever saw. Winger for Preston in England. Willie Woodburn was one of the best there has ever been, and he was also such a kind man. So,
it just says it all, doesn't it? It really does. And, I think if he'd been maybe a different character, then he might have, been stronger on the SFA about the ban and all this kind of stuff. But it was kind of maybe his nature to kind of accept, and the fact that the club didn't really back him up. I mean, for example, the club backing Derek McInnes for a ban that he got without, when he wasn't even a Rangers manager. Rangers should have looked after him a bit better.
So anyway, August 28th, 1954, the sending off that ended the career of one of the most famous Rangers defenders ever, Willie Woodburn. So we'll go to August the 29th, 1964. Again, we're a wee bit far away, but this time it's a debut. So, and a debut of a player that I think no matter how young they are, people will know this name, because there's still songs about it on the iBooks even now. August the 29th, 1964, Rangers beat St Johnstone 3-1 at Ibrox, with teenage winger Willie Johnson making his debut. Now, you and I are just the right age for this one, Steve.
Oh, yeah. Just that was just before I started. But the first game I ever went to, I've said a couple of times, with Hearts in '65, and Willie Johnson scored the only goal of the game after a couple of minutes. So, what can you say about Bud? Universally loved by the support.
I think it's the number of people who went to see Rangers in the late 60s and into the early 70s who say that he was their favourite player.
Yeah.
And that's the team that had your John Greggs and your Willie Hendersons and all these guys, but Colin Steen. But for some reason, whatever the reason is, so many people think Willie Johnson was their favourite player back then.
And it's funny when you talk about, when we've just talked about Willie Woodburn being sin-dyed for 4 red cards. Willie would have had 5 times that number, and never get a full ban. But he was a terrific player. You could see he was just a young. He was the fastest player I think I've ever seen in a Rangers jersey.
Certainly, he's the name I always give. If somebody asks me who's the quickest Rangers player I ever saw, I always say Willie Johnson.
Yep. And it's funny because he said himself that he thought Willie Matheson was really, and that's no name you would think of. I think he maybe over a longer distance. I think Bud was over the first 20 yards. There's no way you can catch him. Absolutely. So and I think Davy Wilson was injured at the time, and that's why he got his chance. And played in the Old Firm Cup final just a few weeks after that at 17 years old, and got a winner's medal.
So I'll do the stats before I talk.
Yeah.
So 2 spells at Rangers. So he left the first time in 1972. So it was 1964 to 1972, and then back briefly in the early 80s from 1980 to 1982. 393 games, 123 goals, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah, very.
And then when I talk about
trophies,
I suddenly go, is that it? So no league titles. So there must be a debate somewhere if you ever talk about who's the greatest Rangers player never to have won a league title.
I think that's the name. Anytime I'm asked that, that's the name that in Colin Steen.
Yeah, I suppose it was Colin. It was played. It was
playing a league. He only played 8 games. He never got a medal. Yeah, I know what you
mean. 2 League Cups. So that was that one you're talking about right at the start of his career.
In the 71 with Derry Jones, 64 Derry Jones,
and 1 Scottish Cup in 1966.
Yep.
In Celtic, and then obviously. They pale into the background because of the 1972 European Cup Winners' Cup. That's a medal that counts more than any other one, isn't it?
It'll always be a Barca bear.
Yeah. 22 caps for Scotland, making his debut in a World Cup qualifier versus Poland at the age of just 18. So quick, fiery. I think fiery is a good word for him.
But I always remember he wasn't fiery when he started. His first 3 or 4 seasons, he was just. But I think when people realised how fast he was, and if they kicked him, he would either retaliate or it stopped him. I think that maybe late 60s, late 68, things like that. Then he started to collate the orderings off.
Yeah, and he kept collating them. No matter who he played for.
It was just in his nature there, wasn't it?
I think so. But there was a period that he plays as an inside forward.
Inside forward as well. Played Person at left wing.
So see the 2 seasons that he more played inside forward than winger. So 67, 68, 68, 69. 49 goals in 2 seasons. Just those 2 seasons, he scored 49 goals.
Phenomenal,
And in one of those seasons, he scored 8 goals at Parkhead in the one season, which I just think is a bizarre. It's one of my favourite stats. That.
Yeah, obviously not all against Celtic, but it was 8 at Parkhead.
No, they only played 3 games at Parkhead. Well,
yeah,
I think they only played the 3 games at Parkhead that season. So a league game we won 4-2. He scored twice. A Scottish Cup semi-final against Aberdeen, he scored a hat-trick. And a Glasgow Cup semi-final against Celtic, he scored another hat-trick.
Yeah.
That's just amazing.
That's amazing. It's an amazing start. We'll never be beaten that, I don't think.
I just talked about Finlay Speedy not long ago. 6 years at Rangers, he scored 9 goals against Celtic. And then I'm saying, well, he also scored 8 goals at Parkhead in one season.
Yeah, that's it. But it's funny. He never scored against them at Hampden, I believe. I don't think. So that kind of, and he only got 1 maybe at Ibrox as well. So he was obviously enjoyed playing at the Piggery.
So, but for all that, you can talk about his cross for Derek Johnson in 1970 and the number of goals he scored and how unlucky he was not to win more trophies. But I suppose what he's most remembered for, and if you like, his legacy for in years to come, is going to be the Cup Winners' Cup campaign in 1971-72, isn't it?
Yeah.
Everybody talks about the final, and we'll talk about the final in a minute. But he scored a couple of really important goals.
Rennes in Torino away goals really did set us up for the home legs in the first round and in the quarter final. So
yeah. I think Willie Waddell's approach, wasn't it, was if you play the away game first, pack the defence, try and hit in the break, try and get an away goal, and then win it to Ibrox in the second leg. That
was it. And he had 3 of the 4 ties we were away first. We was lucky, but him and Steen up front just ran their socks off every game. They were amazing. If you watch the Bayern Munich's away semi-final, the 2 of them are just. I know you might sound like headless chickens, or maybe it was a high press. I don't think they called it a high press back in those days, but they gave the defence no peace whatsoever. And from doing that came Rangers' goal in the game against Bayern away.
Yeah, film goal. So, May 1972. Well, when we were to that, before I get to the final, the semi-final. The semi-final against Bayern Munich, I was there as a wee boy.
Me too, yeah, I was there, yeah.
Harrison behind the goal, they won the 2 goals that scored that. But the first thing if anybody ever talks to me about that game, apart from the atmosphere, it's not the goals I remember, it's Willie Johnson sitting on the ball.
Sitting on the ball out in the left wing in the second half. Yeah.
He was running away for us, and then he just suddenly stopped and sat on it.
People have said that he did it in the cup final against Celtic, the League Cup final. I can't really remember that. I'm not sure if that happened or not. I think that's maybe people getting mixed up, because I definitely did it in the Bayern game. There's footage of it and all this kind of thing. So,
just as well, Beckenbauer didn't have the kind of temper that Willie Johnson had. He would probably have
I always remember Willie. He liked to rub it into the other team as well, because so you mentioned the own goal in Bayern. If you see after the game, he runs up and gives the Zobel was the guy who scored the goal. He gives him a wee friendly pat, and he did the same with Jim Craig twice. Jim Craig scored own goals. And that once was in a Scottish Cup game at Parkhead, another in a Scottish Cup final replay, and Craig scored 2 own goals, and Bud's up giving him a collapse and a wee clap around the head, and well done.
Yeah, but I suppose his name immortalised in songs all because of the final in Barcelona, isn't it? And as of this moment in time, the only Rangers player to score more than 1 European final goal. He's the only one that's got more than 1 goal to his name. So 2-0. I'll show one of the goals just now. So Colin Steen scores. Willie Johnson scores a header. Half time, 2-0. Happy days. 25,000, 30,000 Rangers supporters in the new camp getting ready for a party. And then comes the most famous assist in Rangers history, I would say. Just a few minutes into the second half, this happened.
Rangers will be quite content to keep possession of the ball into the second half, as long as that score remains. Steen, and here's Willie Johnston with a chance, and it's a goal. It's a goal by Johnston, right out of the blue. Rangers 3 up, incredibly 3 up.
Oh, hold on. Sorry, pressed the wrong button there. I didn't go back off the screen.
Right. What a kick out by Big Peter, eh? Oh.
I don't know if there's any other goalkeeper ever had an assist in a European final. But,
probably not.
And I find it incredible. Okay, him and Colin Steen were the 2 heroes of the night. Dave Smith was the man of the match, but they were the 2 goal scoring heroes. And yet, within a few months, they were both away. Steen was away. Coventry, Willie Johnson was away.
West Brom.
Think it was Big Jock just didn't lost any fancy him. Or?
I think for what I was told years ago, that it was like Jock thought they were maybe getting too big for in the dressing room as personalities, but also Willie gets sent off against Partick Thistle. He punched Alec Forsyth, who was going to be a former future Rangers player, and get sent off. And he was going to get a 9-match ban or something like this, and was told that the next time, if in Scotland, it would be considerably longer. So I think he realised then that maybe he had to make a break to get out of it. And obviously it wasn't any good for the club if he couldn't control his temper and had to go. I think every Rangers supporter was gutted, and never thought it was happening. And obviously, in the same way, Colin Steen, who was my hero, and I couldn't believe it when we were getting rid of him so soon after Barcelona.
Yeah.
But then the team went on from there. We won the Scottish Cup. And a couple of seasons later, we were winning the league. So
yeah. So Willie Johnson went to West Brom. I think famously went to Argentina as a West Brom player in the World Cup and get sent home. for taking a prescription medicine he shouldn't have taken.
Reactivan, from memory, something like that.
Hay fever, for hay fever or something.
Yeah.
He eventually came back to Rangers in 1980. He played in North America for a while, came back to Rangers in 1980. To a Rangers team that was struggling badly, it's got to be said.
Yeah.
He did play, I remember him playing a cracking game against Celtic. We beat them 3-0 at Ibrox.
He was brilliant.
Scored a couple of goals.
Yep. Great. He did Dom Sullivan out in the wing to cross it for McAdam's second and Rangers' third goal that day.
And he started in the cup final at the end of that season. In the first game against Dundee United, we drew, and then Cooper came in and replaced him.
Yep. I think he was carrying an injury at the time, and I think Greg said that was the hardest managerial decision he had to make, was dropping Willie Johnson for the second game.
Considering who he wrote in, I'm glad he done it.
And you'll always remember Willie Johnson for his the throw into Alec Miller. That day in 1980, when Davy Provan thought he was being cute by standing on the touchline. Willie used him as a decoy, and Alec Miller volleyed it in.
Yeah, hopefully we'll talk about that game sometime soon, actually, because it must be around this time of year. And then, so he eventually left, went to Hearts, just like almost everybody did in the early 80s. So Willie Johnson, Hall of Fame member, quite rightly. Can't believe how few trophies he really won, but I think a name who's going to be immortal in Rangers history. Simple,
and still goes along to the games with his great pal Steenie. When he's able. So that was August the 29th. August the 30th is a signing in the year 2000. So more than a quarter of a century ago now. Rangers complete the signing of Dutch international forward Ronald de Boer from Barcelona for a fee of £4.5 million. Thoroughbred, is that the best way of putting it? Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, one of the most skillful players that we've had. I think he was hampered a bit by injuries in his time, but obviously the season that we won the treble, him and Barry Ferguson were phenomenal together. But a great signing again. It was at a time when we were just buying all these fantastic players, Arthur Newman, Van Bronckhorst, and the likes of that, for huge fees. And I always remember on the news clip at 6 o'clock when they were. He was in the centre circle, waving to the to the camera man. There was no crowd there, and walking along the touchline was John Hartson to come and sign for Rangers. That's right. The exact same day, And obviously,
medical, didn't he?
Yeah, obviously one worked out and the other one didn't.
Yeah. Hartson failed the medical. The two of them were going to sign. It was actually just a few days after they beat us 6-2 at Parkhead.
It was, yeah.
I think that was Advocaat's way. If something went,
we'll cover it up. How will we get them to forget about that quickly?
Yeah. So De Boer stats. How good was he as a footballer? Well, 67 caps for Holland and 13 goals for Holland as a start. There's a starting point of a start to show you the kind of level of player we're talking about here. And that's a Holland who were World Cup semi-finalists, European Championship contenders, all that kind of. They were one of the top teams in Europe at the time. He was a Champions League winner with Ajax, wasn't he? I think he scored at Euro 2000 that summer. He scored in the World Cup 2 years before. He was for the top draw. 129 games, 39 goals, 1 league title, 2 Scottish Cups, 1 League Cup. What do you think? See if somebody was to ask you the best Dutchman to have played for Rangers, would he be in the conversation?
As a player, as a Dutch player,
yeah,
but not as a Rangers player, right? Right. If you see what I mean, right? I don't think he was his best playing for Rangers. He was fantastic. No saying that, but Michael Moles is just
your favourite.
Phenomenal. Yeah. So I would go for Michael Moles. Although I'm sure there's plenty of people disagree. Van Bronckhorst was a terrific player, but he was kind of younger at the time. He developed into a kind of world class player as well. But my favourite Dutch player would be Michael Moles, but I think De Boer was probably the best Dutch player.
I think when it comes to the pedigree that they had, Arthur Newman was a absolutely top class Dutch international defender. Ronald De Boer was a top class forward for but he had everything. He had great vision. He was composed. He had a wee bit of arrogance about him, which I quite like in a player.
He was better in the air than I thought he would be. He was good in the air.
In fact, and he scored quite a few important goals. He scored in his first Old Firm game. We beat them 5-1. He scored in his first Champions League game. It was Sturm Graz.
Sturm Graz 5-0, yeah.
Did you say he scored best part of 20 goals in the treble winning season in 02-03? And in that 02-03, the first Old Firm game, probably if I was to pick a favourite De Boer moment in a Rangers shot, it would be in this game, which ended up finishing 3 each. It was 1 each, then Celtic scored early in the second half. Larsson scored. It was live on the telly, BBC. Celtic went 2-1 up. They're showing all the Celtic fans all partying and Rangers kicked off again.
Larsson second, Celtic second, and from 1-0 down now 2-1 ahead. What can Rangers do about it? Neil McCann's cross, and Ronald De Boer! It's 2-2! 2 in a minute at Celtic Park. And what sort of psychological effect will that have on Rangers? Ronald De Boer's 8th goal of the season, and it's square again.
Yeah, I can't ever remember a goal for both teams in such a short period of time. Like just the second one, they just killed their celebrations. It was fantastic.
It was. And he did say he was good in there. That was a nice
feeling.
Yeah. So my other memory of him is a daft one. He was out for months after kicking an advertising board. Up at Tannadice, I think he missed a chance or something. He kicked the board. And he ended up doing something with his ankle and he was out for ages.
That was the following season, wasn't it? Because that was his last season, the following season. Yeah.
Crazy stuff. So, as you said, we had a lot of expensive imports in the Cadbury Cats time. I think when it comes to natural ability, skill, how good they were, overall international class, he was right up there.
Yeah. I just think the knee injury that he'd got at Barcelona just maybe affected him a wee bit more than we didn't see the full flight, of how good he was. But he was still a fantastic player. But he couldn't really do it over a period of time,
No.
Obviously, the season 2002-03. I'm sure he get carried along with how good the rest of the team was and how they were doing, But how does he sit with Dutch players for you? Would you say he was the best?
I think when it comes to, I get the Moles thing, but I think Moles at his best was only for 3 months or something. he was terrific after that, but he wasn't as good as he was in that first 3 month period. I think I probably would take peak De Boer as the best. The best.
Was he a better player than his brother?
But his brother came to Rangers.
I know he wasn't in it, but I'm just saying as a Dutch player rather than as a Dutch player who played for Rangers.
I know his brother was probably more of a superstar than he was.
Yeah,
probably.
I guess. Anyway.
So that was August the 30th. Last day of August we're going to reach, and the last one for this pod. August the 31st, 2008. So we just saw Ronald De Boer scoring against Celtic, but we'll just keep the theme going just for the last one. So August the 31st, 2008, Rangers travelled to Parkhead for the first Old Firm clash of the new season and record a brilliant 4-2 victory. So 2008-9, maybe just be, again, a bit of background into this game before we talk about the game itself. So the previous season, we had that huge fixture pile up. We ended up losing the UEFA final. We ended up Celtic overtook us right at the end, and they won the title. We had two defeats at Parkhead, they were both a bit unlucky.
Very unlucky, yeah.
And I think it's fair to say that the Celtic fans were kind of gloating a bit that summer.
Yeah.
And then we started the new season and we lost to Kaunas in the Champions League qualifiers. We knocked out of Europe really early.
Horrendous result.
And then Carlos Cuellar left. And in amongst it all, Kenny Miller had come back. Most people didn't want. So
you can remember, if you remember the Queen of the South Cup final, that was the support was telling Kenny Miller where to go, basically, and they hadn't even signed
it wasn't to Ibrox, I know. So there was all that happening. And Walter picked the following team. So McGregor, Broadfoot, Weir, Bugera, Papach, Davis, Mendes, Thompson, Adam, Kuzan, and Miller. Maybe a couple of names in there that folk don't remember. A lot of folk probably don't remember Charlie Adam played in the left that day. I think a lot of folk probably don't remember. But I think it's probably fair to say when we won 4-2, the three goal scorers were the three guys that wrote their name all over the game.
Yeah, they were the main players. Obviously, Kuzan ran them ragged in the time that he was on the park. But obviously, I think he knew he was going the following day.
Yeah.
He was getting sold. So, but I think he turned in a top class striker performance. You know, like he's how I like Chermiti to be. Kuzan blew hot and cold, though, didn't he? I mean, he could be up for the big games, but he wasn't interested in the bread and butter stuff. That's how it appeared to me. But a great striker on his day, but didn't do it often enough.
If I remember rightly, he was meant to have been leaving in the January.
Yes, the previous January, yeah.
He was meant to be going to Fulham and it fell through at the last minute.
Yeah.
And I think the toys came out the pram a little bit for a little while there. Because he was that kind of it's easy with hindsight, and how would it have made a difference in the final if he hadn't been so stupid against Fiorentina? Oh, I think he would have been a better centre forward to start in that final than Darshfield.
Yeah.
I mean, he should have played. He would have played.
Yeah.
So he opened the scoring well. He absolutely just ran right through the cell, right for the touchline, ran right.
Brilliant. Mark Wilson couldn't keep up with him.
Aye, and then so that was 1-0. They equalised really quickly. You talked about two goals. Right. 2 minutes and they equalised, one each at half time. Then I suppose the guy that had to score that day made it 2-1, Kenny Miller, who we were all still remembering him scoring for Celtic against us at that particular time.
That was his first goal back with Rangers, wasn't it? He hadn't scored in any of the previous games. So.
Yeah. I sort of got a volley at the back post.
Right, I miss it. Was it a miss hit volley into the ground?
The ground and bounced in, didn't it?
Boric was good that day.
So 2-1 up. Then I think it's fair to say probably the goal that's most remembered from the game.
And one of the best old firm goals of all time, I would say.
Oh, it's a stunner. So this is the goal that made it 3-1.
Davis, Mendes is on his own, it comes out onto Mendes. Mendes! What a strike that was! Pedro Mendes on his own firm debut with a sweeter strike as you'll see all season. Nobody at the edge of the box to mark him. And the velocity on the shot, rifle past Boric, and Rangers are ahead by 3-1. Sublime from Pedro Mendes.
I'll let the video run on to show you the replays because I love that last angle of the goal. It's taken from over where Davis was, just to see how purely the ball was struck. Yeah. And it doesn't even look as though it spins. It just perfectly hit, and same height off the ground the whole way. Brilliant goal. And
Mendes, he only scored 4 goals for Rangers, and every one of them was spectacular. It was
Partick Thistle away was Inverness Cali up at,
and then Tannadice the day we won the league.
Yeah, all great goals.
That he'd only joined a couple of weeks before. That was his first goal for the club. Another classy player that wasn't there that long.
Yeah, was it just the one season he did, or did he start the second season and a half? Yeah, because he went back to Sporting Lisbon, ended up scoring against us in a game we were speaking about another time when Morris Edu scored the late equaliser.
Yeah. So 3-1, Boric then dropped one at Kenny Miller's feet for 4-1, which is one of the funniest moments I can ever remember.
A brilliant cross by Broadfoot. I think he confused the goalie.
And I remember being a bit cheesed off that they got a goal in injury time at the end.
Right, last kick, it was, and nobody, the Celtic fans didn't even cheer it.
I always felt as if 4-2 made it closer than it.
Yeah, it was. Aye, it does.
It really was. But after all this trials and tribulations the previous months, that put us back on track that day. I felt that was.
Yeah, it did. And when we were talking about goals by either side within a short period of time, there was 2 red cards within a minute, one for either side. So obviously Kuzan gets sent off for one high challenge too many on Caldwell or McManus or one of them, and then Vennegoor Hesseling took a dislike to Kirk Broadfoot and get sent off a minute later. That was a crazy decision by him. His team are playing against 10 men. It was 3-1 at a time.
That's right.
Glad he did it right off.
I'm glad he did it as well. So Walter knew how to win at Parkhead, didn't he?
Yeah. Through his managerial career, like some amazing games at Parkhead in the mid-90s when Celtic absolutely battered us, and the goalie saved it, and McCoy's put it in at the other end. So
yeah, and then he came back. Then was the Ehiog one. Then there was this one, and
the 3-1 game the following season.
He bossed them. So August the 31st, 2008, 4-2 at Parkhead is our last date for this particular episode. So Stephen, how did you enjoy this week in history?
Yeah, I enjoyed that. Yeah, enjoyed that. Obviously, didn't particularly like looking back on 2014-15, but the rest of them were really good, and there are a lot of things I'm learning about our history as well. So I think it's good. And again, as you said in last week's episode, just if anybody's got any comments or any questions or anything they want to ask us about any time in Rangers history, just drop us a note and we'll either cover it in the show or we'll answer you. We'll get back to you.
Yep, fantastic. So that ends this week's episode of This Week in History. I'd like to thank Stephen and wish him a good holiday because he's going to go on holiday. Although, as far as This Week in History is concerned, you won't notice because we're going to record them all so that they're going to go out while he's away sunning himself. And so we'll be back again next week. I'd also like to thank our sponsors. I'd like to thank Stephen one last time. Thank our viewers. For This Week in History, it's goodbye for now.
Cheers. See you soon.
The Four Lads Rangers podcast is sponsored by Athol Industrial Solutions, Candid, LBJ Consultants, CBD Oil Scotland, Elite Scooter Scotland, and Metaclad, Four Lads exclusive roofing partner. The Aesthetics Lounge by Sharon, Denhay, the quintessential British bacon. Thank you to our sponsors and also to our partners, Black Rooster, Art of Gold, and Rangers Youth Development Company. Thank you for listening to or watching the podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show.